My name is Joel Wymer. I'm a senior supply quality manager for a major automotive OEM, and my job is to look after a group of managers and engineers around the world who look after supplier processes, ensuring that their processes are put in place in such a way as the quality of the components that come into us when we assemble them into our vehicles is up to scratch, meets specification, and comes in at the right capacity. I'd probably argue that I collect licenses because I've got an international motorsport license, but sadly don't have my racing car anymore. And I'm now studying and looking to get my private pilot's license. And I'm hopefully only a few steps away from getting in the air, so I'm looking forward to that. So I've been working in automotive since I left university 20-ish years ago, and I did an automotive placement as part of my university degree, and I was placed with a supplier quality group. And so basically on my first day in an automotive manufacturing facility, I was exposed straight away to a quality mindset. And after health and safety, the first thing that anybody really wants to talk about is the quality of process and product. And in an environment such as an automotive facility, which is operating at such speed, at such quick cycle times, the quality of the product is absolutely key. So long as you're doing something safely, everybody just wants to make sure and assume that the product that they're putting together, that ultimately our customers will drive, is of the correct quality, because we can't hold the line up. Stopping the line is just the worst thing you can do. It costs a lot of money. We pay a lot of people a lot of money to put our cars together, and if they're stood idly doing nothing while we're trying to sort out a quality problem, that's not a good place to be. So literally 20 years ago, on my first day, I was introduced to the door line in the facility I was looking after, introduced to the supervisor, and he was told I was the guy that was responsible for the quality of the incoming product, and it was quite a baptism of fire. So yeah, I was introduced to it some time ago, and I've never been far away from looking after quality and looking after suppliers in particular. So as part of my university degree, and it was great because actually this mentality continued and still continues today. And actually, I hope I can give a little bit back in this regard, is I was assigned a mentor. And the biggest thing I learned from my mentor was not about the tools and the techniques. You can go on a course for those, right? So go and book yourself on courses and learn the tools and techniques, that's absolutely fine. But the application of them, and more importantly, the relationship that you have with the people around you who you rely on to deploy those tools and techniques, is the most key thing. My mentor at the time was the biggest influence on me. And as a result of that teaching about relationships, I said before I was introduced to the supervisor, I developed a relationship with the line supervisors, with the guys on the line. And then that extended to the suppliers that I deal with. I have a relationship with the suppliers. We find some common ground. We get to know each other a little bit. And it just makes talking about quality problems so much easier. Just trying to talk to them about the tools and techniques without any sort of human emotion is really difficult. So I recognise it's not for all cultures, but it was easily the biggest thing for me. And that's continued. And nowadays, where I manage this global team of people, the first thing I talk to them about when it comes to managing their suppliers is what sort of relationship do they have with them? Ask these questions, be knowledgeable, that's all really good. But what sort of relationship do they have with them? How easy is it to go and phone somebody and get information out of them because they know them well enough? You'll find out so much more from knowing the people that you're dealing with. And so that's what I learned. And I continue to do that and continue to work on that. And now that's the way that I counsel and coach my team. Go and form relationships. That's the key bit. that we're in the 21st century, and there's this expectation you can do everything remotely, especially with what's happened in the last 2 years. But there's nothing that substitutes face-to-face contact with people. And if people really are struggling to form a relationship, don't try and do it electronically. I find I am most effective when I am physically at a supplier. I can walk into a supplier facility and can tell within 2 minutes what the rest of the day is going to be like, because you can just feel stuff. That comes from experience. You can't teach that. But the only way you can get that experience is physically going, right? So if that means getting in the car and driving to your local supplier, then do that. If it means getting on a plane, now that perhaps travel's a bit easier, go and get on a plane and go and see them. Go and see them in their facility. Invite them to yours. Ask them to come and see what you have to go through to put their component into your product. Because it's an empathy conversation then. And if relationships are hard to come by, just go and see people. I think it's the only way. Go and feel like you've got a stake in their process, and ask them to come and see your process, so that they feel like they've got a stake in there. Make them feel like that they are a partnership and a key part of the set of cogs that ultimately get the product out the door. I do that with every single one of my suppliers. I'll go and see them, and it's all well and good me going and seeing what their component looks like. But if they don't know how their component's handled, or don't feel that they have any part to play in the car, the vehicle, engine, battery, EDU, or whatever it is that we're building, if they don't feel part of that, then they can't. You can't assume that they have any sort of same level of passion about that product as you do. So invite them in. Come and usually suppliers come in, they're gobsmacked about how complicated our process is. But it does two things. One is it re-emphasises the need for good quality products. We can't afford for them to mess up, because it's such a complex process putting their parts into our vehicles, engines, EDUs, batteries. Such a complex process, but equally it gives them a little bit of passion about the product that they're producing. They'll go away back to their workforce, I hope, and say, we're part of the reason why those products are successful. You see them driving around, and it's like we play a part in that. And personally, that's why I've always enjoyed the automotive industry, because I feel that when I see our cars driving around, if you can take some personal pride in what it is that you're doing, then that has to translate in doing a better job of making it in the first place. So it's like I said before, all of the stuff about the tools, techniques you can go and learn. There are courses available all over the place. Yeah, nobody's ever going to be able to teach you those other than going on the course and then applying them. But the thing that actually makes the biggest difference is the softer skills. The relationships, the behaviour, the cultures, and all of that comes from feeling like you've got a part to play in the success of a product. You can't teach that. You cannot teach that. You've just got to embrace it and feel part of something, and that comes ultimately back again to the relationship bit, going and seeing things. It's not something that you think about. It's just culturally embedded in you. So what it means is that it's just something that you feel proud and passionate about. You can have the skills, but if you're not passionate or proud about the doing it, or indeed what might come of it as an outcome, then it's difficult. You've got to have an interest in it. It's got to be something that you feel comfortable and proud about, and actually it's something that you can see in others just through some of the smaller actions that they take. I'll go to a supplier, and like I said, within 2 minutes I can tell what my day's going to be like with a supplier. You can just tell, and it comes from looking around, hearing things. Does everything here feel like it's working? Are there any alarms going on? And then you look around, and does everything have a place? Have they got walkways? Are they being honoured? Are there forklift trucks driving into where people are? Are there boxes in the right places? Does everything have a place? And even when you're walking around the facility, I know it sounds like a ridiculous thing to say, but the one thing I've learned to look for is, does your host stop at that bit of paper that's on the floor that shouldn't be there and pick it up and put it in the bin? you know, and that stuff isn't taught to people. That nobody goes around saying, "Can you go and please pick the litter up or make sure everything's tidy?" It just doesn't happen. You set a standard, and then you just assume and hope and expect people to stick to that standard. But they'll only stick to it if the culture is right. So if the guy walking you around is a plant manager and he's picking bits of paper up, that's a fantastic example to set to everybody else around him. That's a good culture. Yeah, because everybody's playing their part. If he's gutted that his plant looks a bit untidy, that rubs off on everybody else. So what it means to me for a quality mindset is less about the tools and techniques that you might see, but how are they applied? Do they look organic? Are they natural? You know, has every bit of all the operators bought into it? Go and speak to the operators. Do the operators understand what their task is? Do they know what their job is? And do you get the feeling that that underlying feeling of responsibility for the quality of the products that they're producing? You know, it's just something that exists as a result of people's behaviour, not necessarily because of the tools and techniques that they're rolling out. I'd ask them to do their research on the you know, all the tools and techniques that exist, lean manufacturing, you know, go on courses about measurement systems analysis, etc., if that's what they want to do, statistical process control, understand the tools and techniques they should be looking out for. But I think the thing that helped me the most was seeing how other people applied those tools, how they behaved, how they acted, how they worked with suppliers to ensure that those tools and techniques were being used in a way that was conducive to good quality. So the advice I give is go and see how people behave with each other. Go and observe. You know, don't go and read data and then just interpret it in the way that all the data might tell you, because there's always a bigger picture. And so, you know, we often say about going and seeing things. Don't just go and look. That's brilliant. Anybody can go and look. But go and see. And make sense of what's around you. And if you're struggling with that, then find people who are good at it and ask them. You know, say you don't know, say you need help, and again, I go back to the relationship bit. You've just formed a relationship with somebody. You know, you've just gone and asked for help. I mean, if you pick the right people, they'll be more than happy to help you. I have it every day. People ask for help, and I think it's fantastic. I feel really, really proud that I can talk to people every day about stuff. And sometimes it's just a bit of a laugh and a joke, and you know, it's nothing. And sometimes a genuine technical question, or how should they approach something, and both give me a great deal of value. But where I got the most value in my career is from looking and observing other people and then asking them questions. You don't have to take it all on. Develop your own style. You know, we've got people who bang tables and shout. That's not me, and it's not the same with everybody that I spoke to. But they still had things that I could learn from them. I wouldn't necessarily learn the traits I didn't want to take on. So yeah, go and absorb as much as you can from the people around you, as much as from the courses that you might choose to go on.